So now that we've learned all the vocab, we're going to go ahead and do some examples. So the first set of examples are using the image to identify the angle pairs. Okay? So the first question is name a linear pair with angle 2. Okay, so to remind yourself what a linear pair is, okay, it's an adjacent angle that creates a straight angle. Okay, so it looks similar to this. So we want two angles that are side by side that create a straight angle. Okay. Give you a second to think about which one is a angle that is next to angle 2 that creates a straight angle. Okay, if you guessed angle 1, then you'd be correct. Okay, angle 2 and angle 1 are next to each other and they create a straight angle. Okay, next question. Name the angles adjacent to angle 4. Okay, remember adjacent just means next to. Okay, what angles are next to angle 4? Okay, sharing a side, we have angle 5 and we have angle 3. Name a pair of vertical angles. Vertical angles are angles that are created from an intersection of two lines, okay, and they are congruent angles. So what would be a pair of congruent vertical angles? Okay, angles that are across from each other from intersecting lines. Okay. So looking at our lines, the only lines that are intersecting are these two. And so 6 and 2 are going to be your vertical angles. They're across from each other. They're congruent. They're the same measurement. And they're created from intersecting lines. Okay. Name a pair of complementary angles. Remember, complementary angles add up to 90. We can't assume 90, but we do have a little box here that tells us that those are 90. So therefore, angle 5 and angle 4 are complementary. Okay. And then last but not least, for the vocab, name a pair of supplementary angles. Okay, supplementary angles that add up to 180. Okay, now what other vocab word deals with supplementary? Okay, that vocab word was linear pair. Okay, remember, linear pair creates a straight angle. Straight angle is 180. And down here, it talks about supplementary, which also means 180. So where were our linear pair or supplementary? Back up to angle 1 and angle 2. Those would be supplementary because they create 180 degrees. You also could have said angle 1 and angle 6 as well, okay, going the opposite direction on this line. Okay, so you could have had two different answers on that one. Okay, then 6 through 9, we're going to use the diagram to solve as well as justify how we found what we did. So looking at this image, the first question is finding the measure of QPU. So I want to find what this measurement is. So let's look at what we have. We know that this is 40 degrees, and we know this box means that this is 90 degrees. So how are we going to find this measurement? Okay. Well, what we do know is that this measurement is next to the 40 degrees, and that makes them adjacent, and those adjacent angles create a linear pair because they are along a straight angle. And remember, linear pair means it's 180 degrees. So if this whole thing is 180 degrees, then this whole thing is 180 degrees, then to find this part, we would just subtract. So 180 minus 40 gives us 140. So the measure of QPU is 140 degrees, and we discovered that justification being that angle RPQ and angle QPU, kind of wrote into my space here, are linear pairs, which equal 180 degrees. Okay, good. So we know that this angle here is 140 degrees. Now let's move on. How about angle TPU? TPU. Okay, now for TPU, you could go about it two different ways. You could identify that the angle we just found and that angle are also a linear pair, thus supplementary. You also could recognize that that angle is a vertical angle with RPQ, and vertical angles are congruent. So this also would be 40 degrees opposite of the RPQ. So this is 40 degrees. And like I said, you have a couple different justifications, but the most common one would be the vertical angles. So angle RPQ and angle TPU are vertical angles which are congruent. Okay, number 8, measurement of RPS. Okay, that's the only thing we really haven't found here. Angle RPS. Okay, now how are we going to find that? Okay, so there's a couple different ways you can think about it. So we're looking for this measurement right here. So one way of thinking about it is that if this is 90 degrees, the other side would also have to be 90 degrees, okay, because it creates a straight line. And if this is 90 degrees, and you know that's 40, we would just subtract. So 90 minus 40 gives us 50. So that is 50 degrees. Okay. So if they both add up to 90 degrees, that means those angles are complementary. So angle RPQ and angle RPS are complementary. Okay. The other way you could have figured that out is if you have all these angles. Something we hadn't talked about yet is that all the angles of a circle equal 360 degrees. So you could have added up each little part and then found that what was left over was 50 degrees. Okay, and the reason why we know a circle is 360 is because half of it is 180 and the other half is 180. Together, 360. Okay. Last question, RPT. RPT. So we know this is 50. So RPT. Now, in order to get that, we're going to have to combine a couple together. And so we're going to add this segment, or sorry, this angle and this angle, add them together to get a total. So 50 plus 90 gives me 140 degrees. Okay, and what justification would that be? Justification for that would be angle addition postulate, because you took two different angles and added them together to get one larger one. Another way you could have realized that was that this angle we found first would be vertical to those angles once they were added together. Okay, so a couple different ways you could have said that one, but those are your answers for 6 through 9 with the fixed numbers. Now go ahead and get your homework and good luck.